What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the top tips to start saving more of your money so that you can open up a bunch of financial freedom for yourself. Now, money is one of the biggest issues that leads to a lot of problems in our lives, and budgeting for it correctly, saving more money, and having more money at our disposals really helps us to avoid a lot of problems that can come up. With that said, it's not really the only issue. It's not the only thing. There's obviously so much more to having a well-balanced life than just money, but money is one of the main fundamentals, and it can help you achieve balance in other parts of your life if you approach it the right way. So I started learning a lot of these tips when I was a little kid. My parents are two of the most frugal people on the planet, and they really just gamified saving money and saving as much of that money as they could. When I was a kid, I actually hated this growing up, but now that I'm an adult, I really see the value in it. And since I've been in college, since I've really just gotten out there on my own, I have been growing these tips and improving them, adding to the list more things that I do to save money. And I've gotten to the point where I'm saving 70% of my income each month. So let's go ahead and hop into this list and look at a bunch of tips that are going to help you save more of your income every single month. The first thing that you're going to want to do is get a side hustle that covers all of your expenses. So you want to have more than one source of income. If your primary income is your full-time job, then you want to have a side hustle, something on the side generating income, and if possible, you want that income to cover all of your expenses. Sometimes people take on a second job, sometimes it's just a side hustle. I have a ton of videos about side hustles. You can go ahead and check them out if you're looking for something new and some inspiration. But covering your expenses with your side income is the best way to save more money, because then you can save more than 70% of your income. If you have a good side hustle and it pays for everything, then in essence, you're not spending any of your income. From the moment that Jay Leno entered the working world, he always had two streams of income. One that he would put in the bank and the other one that he would spend. And he always made sure to spend the lesser one. So that means that when Jay Leno was on The Tonight Show, he never touched a dime of that income. So beyond just having a side hustle that pays for your expenses, you want to have passive income paying for your expenses. And this is really the goal here. It's not going to be the first thing that you can do, because generating passive income takes time and it takes investment. So you're going to have to save some of that money first and then reinvest it in something that generates passive income. And one of those is real estate. It's just tried and true over time. Buying a rental property is a great way to generate passive income. Currently, I have a house that I live in as a primary residence, but it's also a rental property because it's a 3-bedroom and I rent out 2 of those rooms. That covers my mortgage and then some, so I'm cash flow positive on this investment, generating money every month. Now that money does not pay for all of my expenses. I want to accumulate more rentals so that that will be covering all of my expenses, but it's a start and it's a jump off point. You might not be there yet, but it can be something to set as a goal going forward to start generating that passive income. And it doesn't have to be a rental property. It could be a dividend stock or something else of that nature that generates money every month that you can use to start paying off those expenses. Ask for a discount. It never hurts to ask. The worst thing that can happen is you can be told no. Everything is negotiable. Now, we live in a society where there are set prices and most people aren't accustomed to asking for a discount, asking for a deal, but you always should. I have a friend who asks for a nice guy discount on just about everything he tries to buy. Wherever he's at, he asks for it. He actually makes quite a bit more money than I do, and he still asks for this, and he just loves doing it, and he gets a really good return on this. Like, more often than not, he ends up getting a discount. If nothing else, he ends up getting a smile because he's really nice about the way he does it. Join a Buy Nothing group. These are cool little groups that exist on Facebook and other places where you can go ahead and pick up items that normally you would have to pay for, but they'd be absolutely free. Essentially, it's like Craigslist, except the rules are that it has to be local and that you have to give things away. And you'd be surprised the type of things that show up on Buy Nothing. I have a buddy that browses these all the time, and he just picked up an awesome wine cooler that brand new would have cost $2,500. It was barely used. So he picked this up. He's going to hold on to it, but he actually picks up things and flips them on Craigslist. Makes a little bit of money. It's a nice little side hustle, but this is just for saving money purposes. You can find stuff on there that normally you would have to pay for, or you can request stuff that you don't want to pay for yourself and see if someone is willing to give that away in your neighborhood. Cut down on bad habits that can be very expensive. 2 of the biggest ones here are drinking and tobacco. Drinking, for example, is one of the most expensive habits in my age group. In your 20s, people love to go out and get drinks, and this really adds up. Bar drinks are not cheap, and your discretion for spending money really goes down after a few drinks. So if you look back over your budget, some of the most expensive occasions are going to be when you had a few drinks. It makes sense to just scale this out. Maybe do a night in where you provide drinks and buy them at the store yourself. You can get them cheaper here, and you're not going to have to pay all those transportation fees that you normally would when you're going out to the bars. Set up an automatic withdrawal so that money is withdrawn from your bank account as soon as it is deposited. You can take this money that you withdraw and put it into a savings account, an investment account, really whatever you like here. Just as long as that money is automatically pulled out, that way you know that you're not going to touch it and it's automatically going right to the place that you want it to be. Now you can kind of play around with the numbers here. You could start by pulling out like 30% of your paycheck, and then you can kind of bump it up and see how high you can get and still kind of maintain those basic living expenses that you need. Another great way to increase the amount of money that you save every month is by increasing your income. And you got to make sure that when you do increase that income, that you're not now spending more money. A lot of people live a more lavish lifestyle the second that they start earning more, but that goes against the purpose. That means that you're not going to be saving anymore. If you do this proportionally, you'll actually be saving the same. But if you can increase that income while keeping your expenses the same, you're going to see yourself save a ton more money every month. And one of the easiest ways to do this is just to go to your boss and ask for a raise. There's also other approaches. You could enhance your skill set so that you're worth more money, or you could find a new job and negotiate your salary in that job. A lot of people don't even negotiate salaries, but most businesses are willing to play. They're willing to bump your salary up if you ask for more. And this actually shows them that you're more valuable, so it never hurts to go ahead and do that. If you want to be saving more money, then you really have to track your expenses, budget them well, and go back over those expenses and cut them. Look at things that are costing you more than they should be, those repetitive expenses that come back every month, and find different ways to reduce them so that you're saving more money every month. Now, you don't have to go back and cut all of your expenses at once. You can start with the big ones. You can start with the easy ones to reduce, knock them down a little bit, and this money every month, this repetitive expense, is going to save you so much more money. Now, there's a couple different apps for tracking your expenses. I like to use Mint, but there's multiple options out there. A lot of people do not take the time to track their expenses, but if you really look at every single dollar that comes in, it is so easy to find the different places that are going to be more expensive for you. Reducing repetitive expenses is going to be one of the best techniques to increase your savings every single month. And it's definitely a slow approach, but you'll start finding stuff that you can easily replace with cheaper alternatives. For me, one of the things that I've replaced in the past was my gym membership. What I decided to do was just cut this out and move entirely to cardio and body weight training. This is stuff that I can do around the house. I can do push-ups, pull-ups, and I can go on runs around my neighborhood. Saves me a ton of money, and I still end up getting a great workout. That leads to the next tip, which is entirely related to food, and it's kind of a couple different parts to this tip. First of all, when you're buying food, you should buy generic brands. They all taste about the same, but generic brands are going to be much cheaper. And you should find grocery stores to shop at that really have the best deals. For me, I like to shop at Trader Joe's because I get access to food that is actually really well made, really healthy, but it also costs me very little. And I like to bulk buy and then bulk prepare my meals. At the beginning of every week, I kind of just find a certain meal that I want to make, and I get that all prepared on Sunday. That saves me time, and that also saves me a lot of money because I have the meals ready to go to bring with me, and I don't have to go out to eat and spend money to buy meals. And going out to eat is one of those really expensive things that a lot of us do. It's a habit. We like to, go out with coworkers during lunch, go out with friends for dinner. But if you can minimize this to maybe, once a week, you are going to save yourself so much money. Implement the 72-hour rule. I really like this. It doesn't have to be exactly 72 hours. Sometimes I like to do 96 hours because by the time about 4 days has passed, I think very differently than I was thinking initially. And so the way this works, if you have something that's like an impulse buy or it's a discretionary item that's not necessary to your budget that you want to buy, you got to write it down on a piece of paper and wait it out. Wait 72 hours and then look at it again and see if you actually want to buy it still. And you'll be surprised at the number of things that on this list you don't really care about after 72 hours, or by the time you've actually spent this much time thinking it over, you realize that you really don't need it. Use mass transportation as much as possible. Cars are one of the most expensive things that we own. They depreciate quickly. You got to pay for insurance, you got to pay for maintenance, and then the gas costs really just add up and take out a huge chunk of our budget every month. But if you live in a city with a good infrastructure for mass transportation, it really just makes sense to use this instead. If you need to supplement with an Uber pool here and there, maybe you're going to a place that's a little bit off the beaten path, you can go ahead and do that at a cheap price too, and it's going to save you so much money every month. Downsize your apartment or your house. The money that you spend on rent and mortgage every month is one of the biggest hits to your budget. And having a smaller house not only decreases your mortgage and your rent payments, but it also decreases utilities like electric and gas for heating your house and turning the lights on. In my current living situation, I have a mortgage, but my mortgage is covered and I'm cash flow positive because I bought what was a 2-bedroom house and turned it into a 3-bedroom house. The room that I'm living in is the smallest room. It essentially was a laundry room that I turned into a bedroom. And I do this so that I can rent out the larger rooms for a higher price and use that to cover my mortgage and actually generate a little bit of passive income to put towards my expenses every single month. Don't spend money on new clothes. New clothes is one of the easiest ways to spend new money that you don't need to be spending. I like to buy just basic clothing that I can use for like a year or two and it never really gets old, never goes out of style. And I honestly just have like a few different items that I throw together, and that makes up like my entire wardrobe. I also like to buy clothing at sales when possible. I buy a lot of clothing on Amazon because I can shop just the cheapest price and get that delivered to me for no fee. I don't have to go out and spend a lot of my time going to stores, getting distracted by deals. And I also like to buy items straight up off of AliExpress, right from the manufacturer. I don't buy them with any labels on them, and I get them for super cheap. Now, shipping sometimes takes a while and you got to find reliable suppliers, but I end up buying clothes for a fraction of the price that I would spend somewhere else. If you're in a relationship, take one person from the couple and only spend their income. Now, I don't recommend doing this if you just started dating someone, but if you've been together for a long time, especially if you're married, this is a great tactic and also a cool way to hold each other accountable when it comes to budgeting and saving money. Along those lines is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. When it comes to relationships, definitely look for that significant other that has similar spending habits to you. That way you guys can hold each other accountable and you're not trying to keep up with someone else's spending habits. That can really just devastate your savings. If your significant other just likes to spend too much, that can be really harmful. And it also extends beyond relationships to your friend group. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people that also like to budget and save is a really good way for you to reinforce those spending habits and also to hold yourself accountable. If you have friends with expensive spending habits, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go ahead and ditch them, but you could try a couple other tactics. And one of those is taking some leadership and making suggestions, such as staying at home and having a game night or doing other cool, cheap activities. And this is a good way to kind of reduce expenses, but still bring people in that you like to hang out with. Now, it's important to remember to have a balanced approach here. You don't want to be saving so much money that you're cutting back on activities that you love to do. You want to enjoy the things that you like in life because life is short and you do have to, get the most out of it. But you also got to be smart and put enough money aside, be saving intelligently, find the right balance for yourself because not everyone needs to save 60, 70, 80% of their income. Some people can save 30 to 40% and still be very financially well off for the future for many, many years. It really all depends on where you're at and what you want to get out of it. For me personally, I just love being frugal, so I like to save as much as I possibly can. But I have family members, I have friends that are financially intelligent, and they definitely spend a lot more money than I do. So find your balance. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and throw me a like. Comment down below. Let me know what other tips that you have because I want to add to the list. I want to grow it as much as possible.